I, 20F, need to get this off my chest. My parents, 50F, 51M, have been treating me differently ever since I moved out a year ago, and watching them exclude me while favoring my sister is really starting to affect me. I have a younger sister, Amy, 12F, who still lives at home, and the way they treat us differently has become impossible to ignore. Let me give you some background about our family. Growing up, we were always close-knit, or at least I thought we were. Dad works as an architect at a successful firm he helped build, and Mom's a hospital administrator. They make good money, well over $200,000 combined annually. We never struggled financially, and they always made sure we had everything we needed and more. I was always the responsible one growing up. I got good grades, never caused trouble, and started working part-time jobs as soon as I turned 16. My parents seemed proud of my independence back then. They'd brag to their friends about how mature and responsible I was. Amy, being 8 years younger, naturally got more attention and care, which I understood. I never resented that because it made sense. She was just a kid. Last year, I landed a corporate job that pays $22.87 an hour. It's not amazing money, but it's enough to live independently, especially since I share an apartment with 2 roommates. I manage all my own expenses, rent, utilities, food, everything. When I decided to move out, my parents actually helped me find an apartment and even helped me move. Everything seemed fine at first. One of our biggest family traditions was taking vacations together. Every year, we'd go on at least 2 big trips. These weren't just regular vacations, they were proper family adventures. We'd go to places like Disney World, Hawaii, or skiing in Colorado. Some of my best childhood memories are from these trips. We'd all plan them together, get excited together, and my parents always covered everything. They said these trips were about family bonding and making memories together. The first sign that things were changing came 3 months after I moved out. I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw Amy's post about their upcoming trip to the Bahamas. There were pictures of her shopping for new swimsuits with Mom, and she was talking about how excited she was for their family vacation. I was confused because nobody had mentioned any vacation to me. When I called Mom to ask about it, her response was so casual it hurt. "Oh, we thought since you moved out and have your own life now, you wouldn't be interested." When I told her I was hurt about not being included, she said I could come, but I'd have to pay my own way. The trip they planned would cost around $3,000 per person. On my salary, that's nearly 2 months of rent and utilities. There's no way I could afford that without completely destroying my savings. What makes this especially confusing is that they still pay for me in other situations. If we go out to dinner as a family, they cover my meal without hesitation. Dad still helps me with groceries, regularly picking up stuff for me when he goes to Costco. They even paid for my portion of our extended family Thanksgiving trip last year when we rented a cabin with my aunts and uncles. But these big family vacations? Suddenly I'm expected to pay thousands of dollars if I want to be included. I tried talking to my parents about how this makes me feel excluded. Dad's response really hurt. He said I needed to understand that I'm an adult now and can't expect them to fund my lifestyle forever. But this isn't about funding my lifestyle, this is about being included in family activities. Mom suggested I could start saving up for future trips, but that would mean no social life and no small luxuries for months, maybe even a year. My roommates think this whole situation is bizarre. Sarah, 21F, still goes on family trips with her parents, and they cover everything. They actually insist on paying because they say family vacations are about spending time together, not about money. My other roommate Jessica, 20F, is in the same boat. Her parents make her join family vacations even though she lives independently. The situation hit a new low last week when Amy called me, excited about their upcoming summer plans. They're planning a 2-week European vacation, something I've always dreamed of doing. When she mentioned the cost, my heart sank. It's even more expensive than the Bahamas trip. What hurts more is that this was something we used to talk about as a family, how one day we'd all go to Europe together. I feel like I'm being erased from the family just because I took steps toward independence. Every time they plan these trips without me, it's like they're saying I'm not really part of the family anymore. The photos they post, the stories they share, it's all about their family adventures, but apparently, I'm no longer part of that family. I've tried explaining to them how much this hurts me, but they just don't seem to get it. Or maybe they do get it and just don't care. Dad keeps saying I'm being dramatic and that this is just part of growing up. Mom suggests I should focus on building my own life instead of worrying about family vacations. But how can I not worry when I see my sister getting everything I'm being denied? I don't want to sound entitled or ungrateful. I appreciate everything my parents have done for me, and I'm proud of being financially independent. But this selective exclusion from family vacations while still being included in everything else feels calculated and hurtful. Am I overreacting? Is this normal parent behavior when kids move out? I could really use some perspective here. Update 1 first, I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post. The support was overwhelming, and many of you shared similar experiences. A lot has happened since then, and what I discovered makes this whole situation even more twisted than I initially thought. Last weekend, I went to my parents' house to pick up some old winter clothes I'd stored in my old closet. I'd been putting this off because being in that house just reminded me of how things had changed. Mom and Dad were out with Amy at her soccer practice, so I had the house to myself. While going through my old closet, I found an envelope that had fallen behind some boxes. It was one of those old photo envelopes from when people still printed pictures. Inside were photos from our family vacations when I was in high school, pictures of us at beach resorts, theme parks, and ski lodges. But mixed in with these photos were something else, a stack of old vacation receipts that Mom had kept. At first, I didn't think much of them. Mom always kept receipts from big expenses. But as I looked closer, something caught my eye. The total cost for these trips were nowhere near what they claimed current trips cost. They told me the Bahamas trip would cost $3,000 per person, but looking at these receipts from similar trips we took just 3 years ago, the cost per person never exceeded $1,500. I started digging deeper. I found receipts for hotel stays, flight bookings, activity packages, everything. Even accounting for inflation, the numbers didn't add up. I took photos of all the receipts with my phone, knowing I'd need proof when I confronted them. When my parents got home with Amy, I decided to talk to Mom alone. I showed her the receipts and asked her to explain the huge price difference. Her reaction told me everything I needed to know. First, she got defensive, saying travel costs had increased dramatically. When I pointed out these receipts were from just a few years ago, she changed her story, claiming they were staying at better hotels now and doing more expensive activities. That's when Amy walked in and unknowingly blew up their lies. She was excited about the Bahamas trip and mentioned they were staying at the Coral Cove Resort, the exact same place we stayed at 3 years ago. The same resort that, according to the receipts I found, cost less than half of what they told me. Mom's face went pale. She tried to usher Amy out of the room, but I'd had enough. I demanded the truth. After some back and forth, she finally broke down and admitted they had inflated the trip costs when telling me the price. Their reasoning? They thought if they made it seem impossibly expensive, I wouldn't even try to come. But there was more to the story. Mom revealed that shortly after I moved out, Amy started seeing a therapist for anxiety. The therapist suggested more exclusive parent time would help her adjust to being an only child at home. Instead of being honest about this, they created this elaborate lie about trip costs to keep me away. Dad got home from running errands and joined the conversation. He tried to justify their actions, saying they didn't want to hurt my feelings by telling me they needed alone time with Amy. He thought making it about money would be easier for me to accept. The irony of how much more their lies hurt didn't seem to register with him. The worst part came later when I talked to Amy privately. She told me she'd been asking about me coming on the trips all along. Our parents had been telling her that I was too busy with my new life and didn't want to come. They made me look like I was abandoning the family while simultaneously working to keep me away. My roommates were even more outraged than before when I told them what I discovered. Sarah's parents, who'd heard about the situation, were especially appalled. They invited me to join their family trip to Florida next month, insisting on covering all costs. The contrast between how different families handle adult children is stark and painful. This isn't just about being excluded anymore. It's about deliberate deception and manipulation. They didn't just leave me out, they actively worked to keep me away while making it look like my choice. They lied to me about the costs, lied to Amy about my willingness to come, and created this whole false narrative about me choosing to distance myself from the family. I spent the last 2 weeks feeling guilty about wanting to be included, questioning if I was being entitled or immature. Now I'm just angry. The fact that they went to such lengths to exclude me while pretending it was my choice shows this isn't about money or growing up, it's about something much deeper and more hurtful. Update 2. After my last update, things spiraled in a way I never expected. What started as a vacation issue has revealed a much deeper pattern of deception in my family. A few days ago, my Aunt Lisa, Mom's sister, called me. She was upset and needed to talk about something that happened at our recent family gathering, one I couldn't attend because of work commitments. Apparently, during dinner, the conversation turned to family relationships, and my parents started sharing their version of why I moved out. According to Aunt Lisa, they painted this picture of me as a rebellious daughter who couldn't wait to get away from family. They told everyone I moved out against their wishes, that I was difficult to deal with, and that I wanted nothing to do with family activities. They even suggested that my job was just an excuse to distance myself from them. The reality? When I got my job offer, my parents helped me apartment hunt. Dad even built shelves in my new place. Mom helped me pick out furniture and gave me her old cooking supplies. They seemed proud and supportive then. But now they're completely rewriting history to make themselves look like victims of an ungrateful daughter. What really stunned me was what Aunt Lisa revealed next. She asked if I'd started using my trust fund money yet. I had no idea what she was talking about. Turns out my grandparents had set up trust funds for both me and Amy when we were born. Each fund was meant to help with either college expenses or starting adult life. I was supposed to have access to mine when I turned 18. I'd never heard about this money. Meanwhile, they've been openly discussing Amy's portion at family gatherings, planning how to use it for her future college expenses. When I called my grandparents to ask about this, they were shocked I didn't know. The trust fund contains a significant amount, enough to have made my transition to independent living much easier. When I confronted my parents about hiding this from me, their excuses were infuriating. Mom claimed they were protecting me because I wasn't mature enough to handle money. Dad said they were waiting for the right time to tell me. But here's the kicker, I discovered they've been using my portion of the trust fund to help pay for these elaborate vacations with Amy. They justified it by saying since I moved out and was doing well on my own, the money would be better spent on family activities. When I pointed out that these were activities I was deliberately excluded from, Mom actually said they thought I wouldn't mind since I chose independence over family. My grandparents are livid. They've already contacted their lawyer about the misuse of the trust fund. It's technically illegal for my parents to use that money for anything other than my direct benefit. Now they're scrambling, trying to justify their actions to everyone in the family. Amy overheard one of our arguments about this and was devastated. She had no idea the fancy vacations she enjoyed were partially funded with money that was meant for me. She's starting to see our parents differently now, questioning other things they've told her about me. I've scheduled a meeting with a lawyer next week to discuss the trust fund situation. It's not about the money anymore, it's about years of manipulation and lies. Finding out about the trust fund made me question everything. How many other things have they hidden from me? What else have they lied about? My roommate's parents have been incredibly supportive through all this. Sarah's dad, who's an accountant, offered to help me understand my financial rights regarding the trust fund. Jessica's mom has been checking on me regularly, making sure I'm eating properly and taking care of myself while dealing with all this stress. I never thought I'd be in this position, hiring a lawyer to deal with my own parents. But they've left me no choice. Their actions show this goes way beyond simple favoritism or different treatment of adult children. This is about systematic deception and financial manipulation. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update, and everything has finally come to a head. I want to share what's happened and where things stand now. The trust fund situation went through legal mediation. My grandparents' lawyer discovered that my parents had misused approximately $30,000 from my trust fund for their vacations with Amy. The mediator ordered them to repay the entire amount within 60 days. This forced them to cancel their planned European vacation and take out a loan to repay the money. The cancellation of the Europe trip caused a huge fight between my parents and Amy. She was already upset after learning about the trust fund situation, but finding out that their fancy vacations were funded with my money really opened her eyes. She started questioning everything our parents had told her about me over the past year. My parents tried different tactics to handle the situation. First, they attempted to justify their actions, claiming they used the money for family purposes. When that didn't work, they switched to blaming me for tearing the family apart by involving lawyers. They sent messages through various relatives saying I should have handled this privately within the family. The hypocrisy is stunning. These are the same people who secretly used my trust fund, lied about vacation costs, and spread false stories about me to our extended family. They even tried to guilt-trip me by saying Amy's therapy sessions increased because of the stress I was causing. Speaking of therapy, Amy started seeing a new therapist that Aunt Lisa recommended. During her sessions, it came out that her anxiety wasn't really about me moving out. She was feeling pressured by our parents to be the good daughter who would never leave them like I did. They'd been using my independence as a cautionary tale, telling her how much better her life was because she stayed close to them. Amy has been staying with Aunt Lisa on weekends to get some space from our parents. I've been spending more time with her too. Last weekend, I used some of my recovered trust fund money to take her on a small trip, just the two of us. We went to a local water park and had dinner at her favorite restaurant. It was important for me to show her that despite everything our parents did, she hasn't lost her sister. My grandparents have been incredibly supportive through all of this. They've revised their will and estate planning to ensure my parents can't access any future inheritances meant for me or Amy. Everything will go into protected trusts that our parents can't touch. I've decided to go completely no contact with my parents. I blocked their numbers and social media accounts. The trust fund money has been transferred to an account only I can access. I'm using it wisely, putting most into savings and using some to further my education with professional certifications. Some family members think I'm being too harsh, that I should forgive them because they're still your parents. But I'm done feeling guilty about standing up for myself. They didn't just make a one-time mistake, they orchestrated a long-term campaign of lies and manipulation, then tried to paint me as the villain when they got caught. I'm focusing now on building a better relationship with Amy and maintaining connections with family members who've shown me real support. As for my parents, they made their choices. They chose to lie, manipulate, and steal rather than treat me with basic respect. Now they have to live with the consequences of those choices. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the right ones. I'm at peace with my choice to cut them out of my life. You can't have a healthy relationship with people who refuse to acknowledge their toxic behavior.